Hello there, Mr. Kowalczyk here with another business math video, and today we start up in Chapter 3. Chapter 3, we begin talking about budgeting, using your money, taking care of your money so that you can have a lot more of it later on in life. Sometimes when we don't take care of our money, it seems to disappear on us because we spend it willy-nilly, and that's just not a good thing. Well, as we begin to talk about our money today, I want to first draw your attention to the different months that I have listed over here in the top right corner. I've got September, October, and November. As you take a look at this, what we are looking at are different expenses that a person could spend money on each month. Now notice I use the word expense. An expense is something that you spend money on in your everyday life. Another thing that you can call that is an expenditure. An expenditure can also be known as an expense. Well, let's just take a look at September right now. September, there were a lot of different things that we spent money on. We paid our mortgage bill, we paid the electric bill, we even bought some groceries, gasoline, all types of stuff. Well, what we're going to do today is compare September with October and with November. There will be a little bit of math involved, but what we're doing is analyzing where our money's going. You see, in Chapter 3, we are going to teach you how to create a budget. But before you can create a budget, you first kind of have to know, hey, where's my money going to begin with? Where am I spending my money? And so what I always tell people to do is keep track of your money. Keep track of all the money that you're spending each month, every single penny. That way, once you have 3 months all calculated out, you can then start getting a big picture look at where your money's going and what your budget could look like. Well, let's take a look at some of these expenses. Some of these expenses stay the same each and every month. Take a look at the mortgage payment. It's $700 each and every month. It never changes. The car payment does the same thing. The car payment is $135 each and every month. You see, these are a certain type of expense known as a fixed expense. A fixed expense is an expense that doesn't change. It stays the same dollar amount each and every month. Now, not all of these expenses are fixed. That's right. Some of these expenses change each month. Let's just take a look at one of them, the electric bill. The electric bill changes each and every month. It's not the same. So when an expense changes from month to month, or at least it can change. If an expense can change, it's known as a variable expense. Variable. All right? So it can change. Now, why might the electric bill change each month? Well, perhaps in September you used to have still some pretty hot weather left over from the summer, and you're using your air conditioning. That might cause your electric bill to be higher than normal. Or perhaps you're watching a lot of TV in September, and that's why the September month the bill for it might be a little bit higher. There are all types of different things that go into variable expenses. You know, gasoline, yeah, that changes each and every month. It's not always the same dollar amount. It can always change, and so you've always got to be aware of that. Why? Well, because prices for gasoline change. Prices for gasoline change. So you're spending all types of different amounts on gasoline. Variable expenses, once again, variable expenses. So we've talked about variable expenses. We've talked about fixed expenses. Now let's actually start doing some of these problems. I've given you some vocab to work with, and let's try and analyze these 3 months. Because as I was saying earlier, if you're going to create a budget, which we're going to talk about in Chapter 3, you gotta have an idea of where your money's going to begin with, so that you can set up the budget properly in the future. Well, let's take a look at problem number 1. Which month was the most money spent on expenditures? Well, all you got to do is look at the 3 months. Which one has the largest dollar amount? September. So, all we're going to do is nice and neatly write out the word September. Boom. That's our answer for 1. Problem number 2. What is this person's fixed car payment? So it even tells you that it's fixed in the problem. So what you do is you look at the car payment, you make sure all 3 of them are the same, and they are. And the problem number 2 is asking, hey, what is this fixed car payment? It's $135 each month. Number 3, in theory, will the car payment change each month the rest of the year? Well, if you've been paying attention to this video, you would know the answer is no. It's always going to stay the same. It's never going to change. It's never going to change, until you pay it off. Number 4 is where it gets a little bit tricky. Why? Well, because in number 4, we're going to have to actually do some math. We're going to try and find the average grocery bill per month for these 3 months. Well, the first thing we've got to do is find all of the grocery bills. We've got to find them all. And you've got to be careful. Why? Because sometimes the grocery bill is done more than once in a month. It's done more than once in a month. It turns out that this one was done 6 times. 6 times. All right? So, you see all those? I'm going to leave those underlined in red. Okay? I'm going to leave those underlined in red. All right? But we are going to have to show some work here. We're going to have to show some work here. Okay? Now, whenever you try and find the average, you've got to do 2 steps. Step 1 is add all of those up. That's right. Kind of boring, I bet. But you've got to find all 6 of those numbers and add them all up. Now, the one thing I want you to be sure that you're doing is that when you're adding them up, you know how many times you went to the grocery store. We want you to know how many times you went to the grocery store. So we went 6 times, and we spent all of this money that I've typed out on the screen. I'm adding them up, and I get $644.07. Now be careful, that is not our final answer, because whenever you try and find the average, you have to do a second step. You take that 644.07 and you have to divide it by a number. Now, I want you to be very careful here. Some of you might think that we're going to divide it by the number 6. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The question is asking, what is the average grocery bill per month? How many months are we looking at? We're looking at 3. So that's why we're going to divide it by 3. And our answer is $214.69. All right? $214.69. You don't divide it by 6, because that's not the number of months we're looking at. That's the number of visits. Now, whenever you go to number 5 and number 6, you're going to basically do the same thing, but for number 5, you're going to do 2 steps, and you're just going to find the electric bill. And how many times did you pay the electric bill? 1 time a month. So, you add them up. You add them up again. So I'm going to go over to my chart over there. I'm going to find the electric bill for the month of September, and it's $75.25. In October, it was $55.84. And it was $51.67. I take out my calculator, I start adding them up after I've shown my work, and I get $182.76. But once again, we have to divide. We're going to take that $182.76 and we're going to divide it by the number of months once again. You notice the pattern? Always dividing it by months. And you get 60.92. 60.92. Alright, so write that over here on the line. I'm not going to do number 6 for you, but you got to show your work. You put the answer over there and you're good. Number 7. What is this person's fixed mortgage payment each month? Well, if we look up there at the chart, we find the mortgage payment, and it's fixed, so that means it stays the same. It's $700 each month. Number 8 and number 9, I think you can kind of do on your own, because that's pretty much what we just did for number 4 and number 5. And then number 10 takes us to the end of our problems. What is this person's average total expenses per month? Well, what we're going to do for this one is we're going to take all of these totals. We're going to take all three of them and we're going to add them up. That's right, add them up. So step 1, 1607.35, 1519, 14, 1592, 85. So once you've got them all written out and you've shown your work, you do the math. But do not forget to do step 2. Step 2, you take that $4,719.34 and you divide it by 3 months. And then you can figure out approximately how much money you spend each month. So on average, this family spends $1,573.11 after you round it properly. This problem that I've just done with you is not part of your homework. This is just an example to help you understand how to do your homework. Hopefully this makes sense. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to talk to Mr. K. Thanks.